Aaron Porter is an educational consultant who works extensively with universities across the UK, specialising in higher education policy. In 2010, he was elected with a substantial majority as President of the National Union of Students, which is the voluntary membership organisation that represents some 7 million further and higher education students in more than 600 student unions, all of which support a range of activities including campaigning, welfare, student rights, sport, community outreach, and countless special interest groups. This is an organisation that makes a palpable difference to the lives of students, and running it, particularly in a context that champions equality, democracy, and collectivism, is a hugely demanding job. Aaron Porter discharged these responsibilities with distinction. His launchpad for that role was the University of Leicester. Indeed, he was the first Leicester graduate to assume the national presidency, following in the footsteps of notable former union presidents at other universities, including Jack Straw, Charles Clarke, and Trevor Phillips. This university is proud to welcome a large number of students who are the first generation of their families to attend university. Often they do so with strong support from their parents, and such was the case with Aaron. His father was a policeman who grew up in London, and his mother is a nursery teacher originally from Trinidad. They share our pride in Aaron's accomplishments, and we are pleased that his mother and brother can be with us today. In 2003, Aaron became a student of English language and literature at this university. In his first year, he chose politics as his supplementary subject, and that was a portent of what was to follow. His tutors in English immediately warmed to him, and in his first year variously described him as friendly, committed, intelligent, and articulate, often initiating discussion in seminars. One tutor described him as a great facilitator, and another noted how pleased he was to receive new ideas. His second-year tutors described him as confident, capable, mature, attentive, and very interestingly, as a generous member of his seminar groups. The chorus of praise continued in Aaron's final year, where interest was expressed in the possibility of his undertaking postgraduate work. Aaron was busy as a student, serving as a course representative in his department, president of the Stamford Hall Junior Common Room Committee, editor of the student newspaper, The Ripple. All this activity happened alongside part-time jobs at Leicester City and Leicester Tigers football and rugby clubs, and as a regular football referee, which proved a helpful opportunity to grow a thick skin. Upon graduating, Aaron's career with the Students' Union took off. He was elected as the Students' Union Vice President, and then, in the absence of a president, as the union's academic affairs officer, and so led the union's engagement with the university. In these capacities, he worked closely with our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sir Robert Burgess, and the greatest legacy of that collaboration is our splendid new Students' Union building. On graduating from Leicester, Aaron was twice elected as NUS Vice President with responsibility for higher education, and then successfully stood for the presidency. His policies included lowering the voting age to 16, so rekindling the torch for a campaign that had first been raised in Parliament in 1999 and now has been implemented in Scotland with respect to the referendum. Aaron also took a serious interest in the issue of graduate employment. His most prominent campaign, however, centred on tuition fees. And here he found himself on the side of students and academics, but opposed to many vice-chancellors, university councils, and the Conservative part of the coalition. This was in part a campaign of opposition to the trebling of undergraduate tuition fees from £3,000 to £9,000 a year, but also a campaign of advocacy for the alternative of a graduate tax on which Aaron wrote a detailed and elegant advocacy statement. The campaign, organized by the NUS under Aaron's leadership, collaborated with the University and College Union that represents academic staff and took to the streets. The national demonstration in London attracted 50,000 protesters, the largest student protest since the 1960s, and Aaron addressed the rally outside Tate Britain. That demonstration thrust NUS and Aaron personally into the media spotlight, with numerous appearances on television and radio, including Question Time, The Politics Show, and a very lively encounter with Jeremy Paxman on Newsnight. He was widely celebrated for his passionate defense of students, his criticism of violence from a tiny minority of protesters, and crucially the need for what he considered to be a fairer alternative to the £9,000 fees proposed by the Westminster Coalition. Aaron Porter realized that campaigning on the streets was not enough, and so introduced a program of formal lobbying, in the course of which he had meetings with the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Business Secretary, the leader of the Labour Party. He also masterminded a campaign to secure pledges from candidates of all political parties to vote against any increase in tuition fees ahead of the 2010 general election. This pledge was signed by a number of high-profile Labour MPs, a small number of Conservative MPs, and all Lib Dem candidates, including Nick Clegg, Vince Cable, and Danny Alexander. The subsequent breaking of that pledge is one of the factors that has made politicians, especially Lib Dems, figures of contempt within and beyond our universities. And the legacy of Aaron's campaign is likely to be a prominent feature at the next general election campaign. During a career still in its early stages, Aaron has found time to take on a number of additional commitments. He served with distinction as a non-executive director of UCAS, the university's admissions body, the Higher Education Funding Council for England, the Higher Education Academy, and the Office of the Independent Adjudicator. Outside higher education, he's also served as a director of Ensley Insurance. On finishing his term as NUS president, Aaron Porter took up a number of new posts, including Director of External Affairs for the National Centre for Universities and Business, the Associate Directorship with responsibility for governance at the Leadership Foundation, and as an Honorary Research Fellow at the University of Winchester. He also serves on the board of the Office for Fair Access, which oversees fairness of access into the UK's university, a cause that remains close to his heart. At the conclusion of a daily politics show, Andrew Neil described Aaron Porter as a rising star, observing that, "I think I was listening to a future MP." That is a prophecy that may well be fulfilled. Mr. Chancellor, on the authority of the Senate and the Council, I present to you Aaron Ross Porter, that you may confer upon him the degree of Doctor of Laws.
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. You are satisfied. Yes, well done.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, graduates, graduands, friends and family, I can't begin to express how much of a privilege and an honour it is to be with you today. Professor Campbell, particularly, thank you immensely for the kind words, and it does remind me that it was only a few years ago that I had the privilege of listening to you lecture about Milton and Renaissance literature, and now to wind the clock forward a few years and to hear my life in 5 minutes precede before us today really is something quite special. So thank you very much. But of course it was only a few years ago too that I sat where you sit today, about to graduate from this university, looking forward to the future, not quite knowing what lay ahead, but unquestionably excited by the prospect of what was to come. I have, in the few years between graduating from this university, and to now, been immensely proud that I did have that privilege of representing over 2 million students in universities across the United Kingdom and 5 million students in our college system too. And there are a few things which, as the years pass, have stayed with me, and I'm sure will remain with me with decades to come. And I just want to share those couple of thoughts with you right now. First and foremostly, it's the life-changing opportunity that university had for me, and I think brings to us all. I had the privilege, and have had the privilege, to have visited in my work over 130 universities across the UK. And on each and every visit, without exception, I can't stop being excited by our research in our universities, their contribution, the communities with which they serve. But as important as the communities that our universities serve, it's the communities that universities seek to create too. As places of learning and research which bring people together from different backgrounds, different cultures, different geographies and religions, our universities are beacons of tolerance and civility. And their contribution to our society should never be underestimated or overlooked. I remain incredibly proud that during my time as president of NUS, we did make a forceful case to the government that the contribution of trebling tuition fees and deep cuts to the teaching funding for arts, humanities, and social sciences in particular could have dire consequences. And these fears were born from a central ideology that university should remain a place for anyone who has the ability and the aspiration. And if a hefty price tag deters just one potential student, in my view, that's one too many. But it is worth saying, since 2012 and the new funding system, undergraduate applications for full-time students has held up reasonably well. It may be despite rather than in spite or because of the new funding system, although applications for part-time study has fallen 40% in just that short period of time. And that is something that I feel deserves more coverage and attention beyond that it's been given in the small pages of the higher education press. Because I know, and it was referred to in Professor Campbell's remarks, that as the first in my immediate family to have had that life-changing experience to go to university, it is such a transformation. And education, particularly a university education, has the power to transform lives, open doors, and breathe new opportunities into individuals, into societies, and into communities like nothing else. And speaking of family, it is with great pride that I can thank them for their encouragement and support through my time during school and beforehand and up to university. It instilled for me a love of learning and an appreciation of education. And I want to embarrass them whilst they sit on the front of the balcony with us this morning. Some of the benefits of university are immediately obvious. The friendships that are created, the chance for some to move away from home, new knowledge, and dozens of volunteering opportunities. I mean, where else could you get the chance to run a radio station, edit a newspaper, and hear from some of the most knowledgeable people on the planet, all in one place? But some of these benefits of a university education are less obvious, less tangible. We know that graduates are much more likely to secure employment, particularly during a recession, in fact, than those who haven't been to university. But it's not just that. When they get there, they're more likely to stay there, get promoted more quickly, and rise up to management levels. But there's more to a degree than just getting a job and earning money. It's the way in which 3 years in these communities that our universities form, that we get to refresh and renew our outlook on life, our understanding, and our broader appetite. And in fact, we know that in societies where there are high proportions of graduates, there's greater social cohesion and trust, less crime, greater political stability, greater social mobility and social capital. And for the individuals in those societies, they're more likely to vote, more likely to volunteer, more likely to trust and tolerate others, less likely to commit crime, more likely to encourage their children to do well in school, to live longer, to less likely to smoke, less likely to drink excessively, more likely, less likely even to be obese, to have greater life satisfaction. In short, these are societies and individuals who are happier, healthier, and more prosperous. My community at Leicester was so varied. It was a series of communities. For me, for the people I moved into in Shirley House, in Stamford Hall, now GMS, to the friends and colleagues I made in the School of English, in my seminar groups, in lecture theatres, fellow course reps, fellow writers on the Ripple, committees of the Students' Union. Even when we disagreed, you were still part of a committee. The people I got to know and chat to on the 80 bus, or the people you just casually chatted to up the Paternoster. There was nothing else to do rather than worry about whether you'd fall out or not. These all had, in different ways, a profound and life-changing impact for me. And so whether the benefit is immediate or longer lasting, whether it's personal or societal, I hope, like me, you will cherish the transformative experience that this university has afforded to you. Stay in touch with your friends, speak positively about the city and the university, and don't let sweeping criticism of universities or the idea that too many people go to them go unchallenged. Of course, university isn't for everyone, but I want to live in a society where we are encouraging as many people to become as educated as is feasible, and where a thirst for knowledge is admired and not sneered at. We really do have a university system to be proud of in the United Kingdom. Every international measure tells us that. And for me, Leicester is the jewel in that crown. Can I thank the university once again for this great honour? But more importantly, can I wish each and every one of you a happy, healthy, and prosperous future. Stay in touch with your friends, stay in touch with the university. God bless. Thank you very much.
Right, well, thank you for being a terrific audience, and nothing makes a politician love more than anything else, and that's the odd whoop and cheer, you know, so anytime, that's always welcome. So it's all that remains for me now to do in a formal way is to formally declare this degree congregation closed.